It's interesting that it has denied it. Hezbollah normally doesn't deny strikes on Israel because that's primarily what it does. It fires rockets and missiles and lethal drones into Israel. But it's denied this one very largely, I think, because it probably was a misfire by Hezbollah. I think there's no doubt that Hezbollah fired the rocket, but they appear, from what I've been reading today, to have been aiming at an Israeli military site on Mount Hermon, and the rocket overshot and tragically hit the Druze village of Majd al-Shams, and killed, we think at this stage, about 12 12 children, which is a terrible tragedy for a small village like that. The village itself has only about, I think, 1,300 people in it. So it will be very much felt by all the residents of the village. But it is primarily a Druze village, and the Druze are very interesting. They were living there before Israel took over the Golan Heights, but more importantly, and probably the reason that primary reason that Hezbollah has denied the attack is that the Druze in Lebanon are also political allies of Hezbollah and have been for some time. They help Hezbollah become part of the government, and that's just one of the realities of Lebanese politics, that Hezbollah is part of the government, and the Druze are their allies. So Hezbollah will not want to admit that it has actually been the cause of some Druze deaths.
So probably a miscalculation, but what role do you think Hezbollah wants to play in this conflict?
When they're firing at Israel itself, they really are very happy to hit Israelis if they can. But primarily, of course, they're aiming at, Israeli civilians if they can. Primarily, they're aiming at Israeli military targets. But what they've been trying to do, essentially since the 7th of October attack last year by Hamas in southern Israel, has been to support Hamas to create a distraction for Israel, so that Israel needs to defend its northern front as well as its southern front. And it's done that very effectively, because the sort of campaign it's been waging has been one that really keeps the border unviable as far as Israel is concerned. And that means that about 60,000 Israelis who live in northern Lebanon have had to evacuate their homes. And Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, mentioned this in his address to Congress last week. This is an intolerable situation as far as Israel is concerned, and it's determined to try to rectify that if it can. Interestingly, and perhaps ironically, perhaps the best way of rectifying it would be actually to agree to a ceasefire in Gaza along the lines that President Biden has suggested, because Hezbollah itself has said it will stop its cross-border attacks if the war in Gaza stops. So that would be a way in which it could happen. But there are various reasons why Netanyahu won't agree to that at this time.
Indeed. To your point, Israel has already struck back. This seems to be, and it's vowing to do even more strikes on Hezbollah. How much of an escalation do you think this is going to create? And to your point, how difficult is it now going to be to try and scale this conflict back?
If they can really do it in two ways. First of all, they appear determined to teach Hezbollah a lesson. But I don't think they think, or they're under any illusions that they can destroy Hezbollah. The last time they went into southern Lebanon to attack Hezbollah, they went in with full military, with 4 divisions, I understand. and they got bogged down in southern Lebanon. And Hezbollah was very good at guerrilla fighting against the invading Israeli force, and very good at destroying their tanks as well. I think it's more likely that the attack, the retaliation is going to be from the air. They'll be looking at various Hezbollah targets, and they well may decide to destroy Lebanese infrastructure in the same way that they did in 2006 with the last war, because what they essentially want to do is to make the Lebanese people realize that Hezbollah is part of Lebanon, and if Hezbollah attacks Israel, Israel will hold all of Lebanon responsible. So I think we can assume that there will be some major attacks on Lebanese infrastructure. I think that's also one of the reasons that the Australian government, in its travel advisory for Lebanon, has told Australian citizens to leave Lebanon as soon as possible, because there is a very good chance that the airport will be bombed and made unusable. So Australian citizens have been warned that they should leave, and certainly they've been told they should not visit Lebanon at this time, given the risk of a major war and destruction occurring.
Yeah. What is your sense of how this could escalate? We know Iran uses Hezbollah, the Yemeni Houthis, as well as Hamas as a bit of a proxy. This juncture we're at the moment, how dangerous is it? I
think it's very dangerous indeed. The reason that I say that is that Iran sees Hezbollah as its insurance against an American or an Israeli attack on its nuclear facilities. So, I mean, the threat that Iran poses is, if there is such an attack, Iran will unleash Hezbollah, and Hezbollah has, we understand, something like 150,000 rockets, missiles, and lethal drones, which, if many of these were unleashed, and the figure I've seen today is that they could be firing up to 3,000 per day if a war were to start out. This is a situation which could get very seriously out of control. I would emphasize, though, that at this stage, I don't think Israel or Hezbollah really wanted to get out of control. So we'll just have to see whether they're able to manage it. But a situation like this, as we know with the fog of war, can be very, very difficult to control once serious military action starts.
Yeah. Ian, always appreciate your analysis. Thank you.
You're welcome.